an entire bulb of garlic, and a big chunk. What's this thing called? Ginger. Jesus Christ. I need to do this whole thing again. It doesn't make any sense. Take two, everyone. Take two. All right, let's do this. Welcome back to the kitchen. My name is Francisco. It pleases me greatly to inform you that today we are making soup. Today we're making chicken soup. We are making chicken soup, however, because it's happening. The temperature is dropping, the skies are getting gray, and everything around us is dying. Summer is gone. I really hope that you enjoyed it. I really hope that you were outside. I really hope that you ran, that you played, that you flirted, that you were sans clothing as much as possible. This happens every year, I am told. And every year, without fail, I manage to feel shocked and outraged and betrayed. Enter this soup into play. I will say, and I will admit, this soup is probably the dish that I have been making consistently for the longest time. Because I've made it so many times, it's also a dish that I've had the opportunity to come back to and perfect and tweak. And I really do believe that this is sort of the best version of what it is. I'm also not doing anything like particularly weird or revolutionary. Like, this is chicken soup, it's pretty standard. I will say, however, this recipe is not a quick one. You do not make the soup of like, oh my God, I have 20 minutes, I'm gonna make some chicken soup. Like, that's not gonna happen. And finally, what I'm gonna teach you how to make, which was admittedly kind of the last component that I ever developed for this recipe, I didn't used to add this, is the Parmigiano dumplings. The dumplings really make it special. They elevate the entire thing. They have a lot of Parmigiano cheese. They bring this like wonderful softness, richness to the entire thing that complements the soup really well. So as advertised, the main thing that I would like to bring to your attention is the whole chicken. I do believe in the beauty of like getting a whole chicken and really benefiting from everything that the chicken can give you instead of going to the store and getting like chicken parts. There's something very unnatural for me about that. The reason why I think that it is optimal to use a whole chicken is because the chicken body, the entire chicken body, has a lot to give in terms of flavor. It goes way beyond just the meat that we are, of course, going to eat and incorporate into our soup. The whole chicken has its entire cartilage, its entire connective tissue. It has the bones, which I don't have to tell you that bones have amazing flavor. I'm not gonna go all Gwyneth Paltrow on you. I am first going to add my entire chicken, and now what I'm gonna do is that I'm going to cover this entire pot in water, and I'm going to cook it and bring it up to temperature very, very slowly. So I have seen sort of a mistake happening that people will boil their water and then introduce their chicken. If you do that, the outer layer of the chicken is going to cook immediately. By bringing everything up to temperature slowly, the outside is not overcooking and the heat is gradually reaching the center of the protein. This method of cooking is a lot more gentle, and it does make a difference. It provides beautiful, delicious, soft meat. My chicken is now completely submerged in water. To this, I am going to add about 2 tablespoons of salt. All I want, the first step, is to cook this chicken to perfection, and that is going to be my first step in making this soup. It's just making sure that my chicken meat is well cooked, prioritizing that, and then we'll focus on the rest of the elements. As my chicken is coming up to temperature, what's happening is that it's releasing some of its proteins. They're getting coagulated in the water. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna skim out those proteins, and once my water reaches a boil, so once I see bubbles, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to turn off the heat and I'm going to cover with a lid. And I'm just gonna let that chicken rest in that hot water, but I'm not gonna keep blasting it with heat because that is going to effectively overcook the outside of the chicken. 30 minutes have elapsed. My chicken has been resting in that very hot water. So now essentially 2 main things are going to happen. One is that I'm going to fish out my chicken so that it can rest. The bird is heavier than you think. I try to leave as much water behind as possible, shake it a little bit, and in the meantime, I can prep the rest of my ingredients. So I'm gonna set my chicken aside. And now essentially here what I have is some very lightly flavored chicken broth. Like I say lightly flavored because, you know, our chicken didn't spend that much time here, but there is a lot of flavor in this broth. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to keep this water, and on this water I'm going to build the flavors for my soup. So, setting this aside just so that I have surface area to work on. But this is when we include the rest of our ingredients. I am going to add an entire head of celery, cut the bottoms. I'm gonna add a lot of carrot. Honestly, I usually eyeball this to the amount of water, but like, this looks good. I'm gonna add an entire onion. I'm gonna add an entire bulb of garlic, as well as a big piece of ginger. So just to be clear, this is 105 grams of ginger. Adding a handful of peppercorns, I really love how they release all of their like floral, spicy notes. So this is going back on the heat, on low heat. Okay, so about 10 or 15 minutes have elapsed and now my chicken has sufficiently cooled. Since the first thing we did was to cook our chicken and to make sure that the meat was perfectly cooked, now we can reserve that, we can store it, but everything else, the carcass from the chicken, the skin, the cartilage, the bones, all of that I am reserving and I am putting back into my stock. And this is what is going to make just the most delicious, flavorful, intense stock. Is there a beautiful, aesthetic, Instagrammable way of doing this other than just using your hands and feeling and separating? No. There isn't. I truly believe that we have the ability, maybe it's like an evolutionary thing, to distinguish, like even if we like close our eyes and we just use the tips of our fingers, we can distinguish the parts of the chicken that are edible and the parts that are not. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm not really gonna show you. Like I'm not gonna like zoom in here because I don't think that it is particularly nice to watch. Suffice to say that I am using my knife to kind of separate the pieces. The skin of the chicken is incredibly flavorful. It has a lot of fat. You want to put that back in the broth for sure. I am kind of committed in like showing what cooking is like with this like sort of content creator mentality that everyone has. We've wanted to make everything like super aesthetic and super beautiful, and there are some steps in the kitchen that are not particularly pretty, but they're necessary. I also make this soup every time I'm sick. Like the moment that I feel myself like coming down with a cold. I made it in 2021 when I got the infamous virus, and honestly it saved me. It was very, very cold outside. It was snowing heavily, and this soup was honestly what kept me like comfortable and warm and feeling taken care of. And good soup will do that. Good soup will like feel like a hug. Covering and putting back into the heat, very, very low simmer. A little trick that I like to do, you can just reserve this meat, put it in a container, have it in the fridge. I'm gonna go a little extra step and I'm gonna roast this meat. So I'm gonna add it to my pan. I'm gonna drizzle it with some olive oil, season it with salt and pepper, and just roast it on high heat. It's gonna develop color, it's gonna develop more flavor. I like to do this and then include it to my soup, but you absolutely do not have to do this. This is just an extra step that I'm gonna be doing today. So now, guys, this is where we stop. This is where we take a break because nothing else is gonna happen. I need that stock to be simmering away for basically as long as I have time, as long as time allows. I can do it all day, and I will do it all day. Once it's done, we'll come back, we'll plate, and we'll have soup. Okay guys, it's been approximately 84 years and now we finally have our beautiful stock. As you can see, it is like deeply, deeply, deeply golden. The color is just something that you simply cannot replicate. What I did was I drained everything. I discarded everything. Like I said, all of the vegetables that were left in the pot, they were just completely empty. They had given everything to the broth. All of their flavor, all of their nutrients, all of their beauty is in here. This tastes absolutely incredible. I seasoned it with a little bit of salt to taste. So you really want to do this sort of at the end. I'm going to set it aside. And now the final step is making my dumplings. My dumplings have a lot of Parmigiano. They have sour cream, and they have a little bit of egg to bind them together. So in a large bowl, I am going to combine all-purpose flour. I'm doing a pinch of salt. I'm not seasoning that aggressively because the Parmigiano has salt already, so I want to be mindful of that. Freshly cracked black pepper. 8 grams of baking powder. And then finally grating my Parmigiano. We are keeping them very light. We are not overworking them so that they keep like very fluffy and soft to bite into. Lovely, that was 20 grams. And now I am cracking 2 eggs and adding 30 grams of sour cream, a little bit of olive oil, and mixing together. As you can see, this can barely be considered a dough. Like, it is kind of like this goopy mess. And once I have a nice boil, we can start introducing our dumplings and then removing them from the heat. Okay, guys, so let's recap. Let's talk, let's study, let's discuss. How do we feel about this? I feel really great about these dumplings. They are incredibly soft. They are pillowy. They are, yes, very irregular in size, for sure. But like, I can pick one up, they don't fall apart. If I bite into one, I can taste the Parmesan. They spent in the water like a minute. You do not want your dumplings to spend any more than that, because what you're risking if they're in the water for too long is that all of that Parmesan is going to melt. The fats and the sour cream are going to separate, and they are going to cause the dumpling to fall apart. Okay, so we have everything. Guys, we're ready. Should we have soup? Order of operations. I am starting first and foremost with my chicken meat. My chunks of chicken are big, they're large. Then I am adding my beautiful chicken broth, which has been kept warm in the stove. I'm adding 2 dumplings. And I'm topping with my celery, some black pepper, a little lemon juice, just to wake all the flavors up. That acidity is gonna be very appreciated. And then finally, a little more Parmigiano. Wow. Wow. Just the smell, it already makes me feel better. The dumpling melts in your mouth. It's incredible. The center of the dumplings remains so soft and pillowy. I forgot, but do finish with a little bit of salt. Season everything at the end so that it binds everything together. That's it. That's the soup. I make myself the soup when I'm sick. I make myself the soup when I'm cold. I make myself the soup when I'm sad. When I released the recipe for this dish, it was called I Wish You This Soup. And I do. I wish you this soup. I wish that it make you feel as good as it makes me feel. It's something that you can keep in your back pocket. We all have rainy days. We all have gray days, inside and out. And I think that a nice chicken soup can go a long way in making you feel better and just to get you through the day. Thank you so much for watching. I'll hopefully see you in the next one.